apologize. Honorable M. Kanyan is not here. It's Honorable Engelberg.
Morning, Speaker. I, Bronwyn Engelbrecht, as the Acting Chairperson of Social Development Portfolio Committee, hereby declares Geluksdal Hall in the city of Ekurhuleni as the precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature in terms of Rule 59 of the Standing Orders of the Gauteng Legislature version 5, revision 1, read together with sections 2 subsection 1 and section 28 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislators Act number 4 of 2004. The precincts of Parliament or Provincial Legislature are described as follows. Number 1, the precincts of Parliament is the area of land and every building as part of a building under Parliament's control, including the chambers in which the proceedings of the House are conducted, and the galleries and lobbies of the chambers. Point B, every part of the building, garden, enclosure, or open space adjacent to it. Point 3, committee rooms and other meeting places provided or used primarily for Parliament's purposes. And point 4, every other building or part of a building provided or used in connection with the proceedings of Parliament while so used. For the duration of this meeting, this place will be the precinct of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature. Thus, the standing rules of the legislator will apply and govern all the engagements of the day. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Engelberg, for your declaration of the precinct. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome City of Ekurhuleni Municipality, the Speaker Bridget Tusi, and ask her to deliver her welcoming address to the House.
Thank you. Okay, greetings, Speaker, Acting Speaker of the Gauteng Legislature, members of the Provincial Legislature, invited councillors from various municipalities, members of the Provincial Executive, invited guests, and most importantly, to the people to whom we are here to listen to, the persons living with disabilities. There is a saying that is often attributed to Mahatma Gandhi, which says, the true measure of any society can be found in how it treats its most vulnerable members. Fundamentally, the saying challenges us all in our work in the legislature, in the municipal council, in the executive, and in all our responsibilities, that the true measure of impact of the work of the institutions should be its impact on the vulnerable members of our society. We were pleased to receive this invitation from the Gauteng Legislature, particularly because of the purpose of this gathering, to empower persons living with disabilities to participate in the legislative process and to influence the decision-making in our province. We welcome this initiative and we are happy to be a part of it. Indeed, it is a step in the right direction because this platform must guide the legislative process in making sure that people living with disabilities are not misunderstood. discriminated against, and are provided with equitable opportunities for them to contribute to our society. There is a serious lack of reliable information on the nature and the prevalence of disability in South Africa. Historically, disabilities were viewed within a health and welfare framework. This has previously led to the inability to integrate the needs of people living with disabilities within the mainstream government and legislative process. The reality, at least to my limited knowledge, is that the key forms of exclusion responsible for the cumulative disadvantage of people living with disabilities are poverty, unemployment, and social isolation because of our lack of understanding of their needs. We therefore appreciate the step that has been taken by the Gauteng Legislature to integrate people living with disabilities in the legislative process to help us better understand their needs, their aspirations, and their challenges that they faced on a daily basis. We know that despite our progressive laws protecting people with disabilities, society continues to exclude, isolate, and discriminate against them. Many are still excluded by society, fundamentally limiting their access to social, political, and economic opportunities. Another factor that I personally had to unlearn was the tendency to view people living with disabilities as a single group, ignoring their diversity and the diversity of their needs and experiences. Once again, we appreciate this invitation and we hope to unlearn from this engagement. We hope that this is one of the many to be initiated by the legislature and municipal councils, because the true measure of our work will be found in how we treat the people living with disabilities. Honorable members and guests, I do not wish to be a politician and give a long speech. Lastly, I would like to I do wish to put a challenge to this forum before I sit. What prevents us in legislatures and in municipal councils to pass laws that ensure that people living with disabilities are prioritized for housing, for healthcare, for economic opportunities, and for employment? There should be no single reason that a person living with disabilities must live in a shack without running water, without sanitation, and without electricity. There should not be a single reason why a person living with disability should struggle to get skills to sustain their lives. It is within our means to be able to provide this for them. Thank you, and we look forward to the engagement and on how we can utilize our legislative roles to include persons living with disabilities. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Bridget Tusi, for your address. I would like to welcome Honorable Linteng Tombi Mikwe, the Speaker of the Gauteng Legislature, to address the House on the purpose of this event.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Honorable Speaker of the session. Thank you very much for allowing me to come and address all our honorable members and our guests who are attending this important sector parliament. Let me also indicate that the chairperson of the Social Development Portfolio Committee at the Gauteng Provincial Legislature has sent her apology, as she was required to immediately go to the embassy in Pretoria, as she has a trip to undertake in the evening. And her name is Honorable Refilwe Kekane. That's why Honorable Engelbrecht had to stand in for her, as they are in the same portfolio committee. And thank you very much, Honorable Engelbrecht, for actually availing yourself at a short notice. The MEC of Department of Social Development, who's also on her way, Honorable Murakane Musupi. Let me also greet all chairpersons of portfolio committees as well as members of the portfolio committee. Honorable Tusi, our councillor in Ekurhuleni, thank you very much for also availing yourself. Let me also greet our colleagues from the Independent Electoral Commission who are here. I hope they are going to get a slot to tell us more about the electoral process. Let me also acknowledge the Office of the Premier as well as the Department of Social Development officials who are here, and the team from the Gauteng Provincial Legislature who are actually assisting us to be here. Honorable Speaker, I was complaining about the venue to say, why did you book such a small venue? And I was informed that our honorable members from the sector, when they heard that there's going to be this important event, they said we are all going to attend. We're not expecting such a huge number. But because many of you, the last time you attended, it was in 2019. And many of us could not have these events because of the COVID pandemic. So I accept the apology from the officials. And I hope you, Madam Speaker, and the team will also understand, because from the sector, you all demanded to be here. And I'm aware also that there are others who are not here who would have loved to be here, but because of the transport challenges, because we had to organize the transport that will ferry those that were invited to attend. It shows how much we miss these meetings. It shows how much we all want to influence the processes of governance. Let me also acknowledge representatives from the NGOs that are representing persons with disabilities. Let me also acknowledge everyone present. If I did not mention your institution or mention your name, it's not because I choose to, but it might happen that I don't have all the names and the institutions of people who are here. It is indeed a great pleasure and honor for me to address you to this important sectoral parliament of persons with disabilities under the theme, "Not all disabilities are visible." I want to repeat. The theme says, "Not all disabilities are visible." Why the theme was chosen is because at times there will be people who think that they are okay, but they're not aware that they have disabilities. I might be standing before you, I might be having a disability that I'm not even aware. So I think it is important that we must not judge, or I can even fall here and become disabled tomorrow. Hence our quest to respect all of us, everyone, irrespective of who we are and where we're coming from, is important. Yesterday, the Gauteng Legislature, we had a feedback session because we've agreed as a legislature to say, when we have sector parliaments, maybe the year after this one, we should give feedback because we take resolutions. We must take these resolutions, we must send them to relevant departments, and we must get feedback that will say or will indicate what has happened to those resolutions. Whether we are actually coming here as a talk show, I think it won't be correct. When we resolve, those things need to be implemented. The main premise of our legal framework, aimed at protecting the basic human rights of our people, is the Constitution, which is the supreme law of our country. If we can't respect Section 9 of the Constitution, that provides that everyone is equal before the law. and we all have equal protection and benefit of the law. Sonke siyalingana, irrespective of who we are. No person, including the state itself and private companies, may unfairly discriminate directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, because abanye abantu bazothi thina swazi umthetho. Therefore, we can't say we don't understand the law. The bottom line is, even nasebhayibhelini, we are all God's children. Therefore, as God's children, we should respect each other. Section 10 of the Constitution further provides that everyone has the right to have their dignity respected and protected. Sihloniphane, sikhuselane. That's important. Usho Constitution yethu sonke. And I'm raising the issue of the Constitution because March is the Human Rights Month in South Africa. Therefore, it is important that whatever we do, we should always go back and remind ourselves of what rights are provided by the Constitution. An individual's disability can play a major role in his or her life, whether it is positive or negative. But when you overcome the challenges and developing confidence, it is our utmost duty to allow people with disabilities to experience a life they deserve. You know, last week I attended a meeting, Africa Region, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, where I am the regional treasurer in Africa. And we're talking about the very same issues, to say we need that constitution. We also need to change the international association so that even members with disabilities needs to be protected, but they also need to be given space and protection and the support that they deserve. And I'm happy because when that issue was raised, although it was raised by Kenya, but we all agreed as the Africa Commonwealth Parliamentary Association in Africa. As a result, we're going to pass a motion that we're going to send to our international structure that will be sitting in Canada later in the year, so that even that constitution must be changed to allow people with disabilities to actually participate in the matters of governance. The importance of creating this awareness has been given prominence over the recent decades, making it easier for the persons living with disabilities and the society to be included as equal members of society. Siyalingana. This awareness helps in subsiding the stereotypical mindset of the society, hence providing vast opportunities for everyone to get involved in creating a positive, inclusive society for all. That's why even in parliaments we have these gatherings, so that we prepare you, so that if you want to stand for election in any political party, people can say you don't understand what the political or even the legislative environment entails. We're preparing you, ningasabi naksasa, wherever you are. And when you go to local government elections, you can even stand as an independent, and you can even campaign so that you are voted, because the Constitution says all citizens have a right to stand or have a right to elect the leaders of their choice. This sector parliament will highlight the challenges of persons with disabilities and seek to establish legitimate platforms for empowerment, promotion, and maintenance of our status, our rights, our well-being, the safety and security, as well as to provide channels for discussions and implementation of resolutions emanating from this sector parliament. While EIEC is also here, we also want, working with yourselves, to ensure Uguti, when we go and vote, the Constitution should actually allow us, or the Electoral Act should allow, especially people who can see, to use the Braille. Because many a times, we depend on those that can see. And uma uzocela mina ukuthi ngikuvotele, I can actually do what I like because awubona ngithi uzothi uma uthi angitshela uthi ufuna ukuvotela into so ngivotela into efunwa yimi. Therefore want to influence and pass the law ukuthi sikwazi ukuthi nabantu abangaboni bakwazi ukuthi basivotele using the Braille. At the moment at the Gauteng legislature ama business card wethu are in Braille. So that uma ngabe uthi ucela inumber zami uma ngokunikezela ukwazi ukuthi uzifonele. Angisho sesinama phone ane Braille akwazi ukuthi abantu abangaboni bakwazi ukuthi bayuse inumber. Therefore even our business cards are geared towards that. As I stand here before you, I indicated that I might be having a disability that I might not be aware of, or I can fall and have a disability, or I can get sick. For example, diabetes ingayenza umuntu agcina ngaboni emehlweni angithi, and have many of us or our families just had COVID in the past 2 years. Abanye bakhona they can't recover even now because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as a result, baguma chronic medicine as a result. Nobody is perfect because some of us have learning difficulties. Some of us cannot see all colors. Some of us need glasses to, like njengami kwesikhathi angiboni kahle ngifaka ama-glass ukuze ngikwazi ukuthi ngibone. Mara ma ungibhekile uzacabanga ukuthi ngisharp ne? Yeah. It shows ukuthi we have different levels of disability. Some are not as good as others in sport. Some cannot even see other things or even travel without being assisted. Even a temporary illness like a flu or a prolonged illness like diabetes creates some form of disability and in some cases may lead to permanent disability. So often you look at disabled people and in that split second we judge. And who are we to judge others? We are not God and we are all God's children. In those moments of hesitation, we need to remember that we are all disabled, we are all weak in different ways, we are all occasionally lazy, even nabantu aba lazy. You know, kunabantu abavuka bahlale nje. And for me, that is a problem. Uthi umuntu mawuthi, you know, omunye umuntu ahlale it's cold or it's hot, ufaka umuno emlilweni. It shows good there's something wrong. Why uyenza so? Athi hayi mina I complain. That is a problem on its own. Abanye fanele sibaphushe all the time. They can't do things on their own. And some of those that attempt to be disabled or are seen as people with disabilities, they're even better than abanye bethu. Because you do things, you wash, you clean, you do all those things on your own. I say we're all together in this and we all have a disability in one form or another. That is what makes us exciting and interesting as a human race. Nobody is better than the other and nobody on the face on earth today can say they are fully able in every sense. Angisho njengathi sihlala sisebenza. We even hire people, domestic workers, to help us at home. Because if we're fully charged, why can't I go to my workplace and come back and clean my house and do all these things? It shows guti sonke kunala you can't do work 24 hours a day. It shows already guti there's a challenge. Nobody is better than the other and nobody on the face of the earth today can say they are fully able in every sense. Our coming together shows that we value you and we value your contribution to society. When we see you, we do not see people whom we must feel sorry for and try to help cross the road. No, we see people that are as able as any other person and have merely found different ways of doing different things. I therefore say, do not think somebody is disabled, rather think that we are all differently abled. The International Day of Persons with Disabilities was on the 3rd of December, and it afforded us an opportunity to raise awareness and mobilize support for the dignity and well-being of persons with disabilities. and we must do this every day, all the time. Singalindi i-3 zaka December ne? Singabafihli laba esicabanga ukuthi abekho ngcono kunathi, sibafihle bahlale emakhaya, masambeni nabo bahambe babe exposed to things, because that is how they are going to grab opportunities. In 2015, UNESCO used this day celebration of the 3rd of December to reaffirm that persons with disabilities should enjoy human rights and fundamental freedoms. The Persons with Disabilities Sector Parliament of 2022 will present, amongst others, an opportunity to evaluate the universal access to quality education and accessibility to information and knowledge. That is what UNESCO said we should do. These events will also highlight the role of civil society in advancing the rights of persons with disabilities. You know, civil society at times, ngoba abantu abacabanga ukuthi they bazo represent nina, at times they don't do that. They do it to benefit. I always have a problem at times with our NGO sector. Ngoba at times when we are sitting like this, bafike abantu with disabilities something now bafuna ukuthatha, and yet those things are not meant for them. They are meant for those that are invited. As the Gauteng Legislature, as we convene the Persons with Disabilities Sector Parliament as a public participation platform, and this in response to Section 118 of the Code, and therefore, faneke uma constitution is phoqelela, we should also be responsive, but senze sithande sikwenze ngenkani. The Persons with Disabilities Sector Parliament is convened by the Gauteng Legislature as a means of ensuring that this sector legislature, singaloge sin decided all the time, but we need to dissolve the Gauteng Legislature as well as councillors. This form of public participation also assists the MPLs in their lawmaking in terms of making policies and oversight mandate over the executive authority relative to the challenges that faces PWDs at the level of governance. Thina si Gauteng Legislature, uPremier nabo MEC, faneke masasi engagile nani, ama resolutions faneke sibathathe, and after monthly or even quarterly, babuye bazositshela ukuthi ngala ma resolutions benza njani ngawo, siba hold accountable. Therefore, the purpose of the Sector Parliament for 2022 is to build and strengthen existing partnerships between the GPL, organized formations, as well as the Gauteng Provincial Government. We also need to create awareness and educate all stakeholders about disabilities, which may not be immediately apparent, but can still have an impact on people's lives. We would further want to achieve the following: 1, to engage and encourage persons with disabilities to be part of decision-making in the business, but also to strengthen governance. Told ukuthi la ngilala khona ngilale Duduza, which is about 3 minutes away from here. Bazosukumele baya kamasipala bayo demonstrate, but we are sick and tired. We want our issues to be addressed, and I was happy. So that kungabi abanye abantu abasukumelayo, but uma city slogan city, nothing for us without us. It's important. So at uma city sakha izindlu, faneke sibuza ama questions ukuthi bayingaki abantu abakhubazekile abathola izindlu. Uma kuthiwa nawo amabhazari, abantwana abakhubazekile bayingaki abawathola amabhazari, siwabuze lawo ma question, singabayekeleli. And uma ngabe siyabaza abanye bahlele emakhaya, sibadonse sithi izani phambili kwaHulumeni ngoba labantu sibakhethile, therefore faneke basirepresent in the true sense of it. As the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the Gauteng Provincial Government, we have a responsibility to support people with disabilities by crafting laws that are suitable for the needs of persons with disabilities and the programs, therefore. We'll be encouraging a culture in this country where we appreciate everyone for who they are and what they can contribute. What remains central to me is to provide a platform to the PWDs to canvass and share their ideas, engage robustly amongst their peers on issues pertaining to their plight, lobby and influence public representatives responsible for legislative restructuring and policy change. Uma ngabe umthetho awukhona ukuthi udeliver lento enifunayo, umsebenzi wethu ukuthi faneke siwenze ukwazi ukuthi umithe ama needs wenu. Therefore, as GPL, this time around, we had the opportunity to strengthen relations between us, non-governmental organizations across Gauteng that work and represent persons with disabilities, and the cordial relations that I am pleased with, although it can still be improved. Gauteng legislature plays a critical role in ensuring that issues affecting persons with disabilities are addressed through the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. This committee has a mandate to make laws, encourage public participation in its programs, as well as conduct oversight on the Gauteng Department of Social Development. It is therefore my strongest belief that persons with disabilities can play a critical role in the life of any organization as we are facing challenges on a daily basis. I can also assure you, Guti, even during the apartheid era, people with disabilities, they were in the forefront to make this country free, to liberate our country. Abazange bagoqe izandla, but we had NGOs that were leading. Therefore, who says now they can't participate? We should therefore be able to inform our MPLs and MPs in our constituency offices when there is something going wrong and that needs to be rectified. But remember, we also have councillors. Ningabashi emuva nabo nibatshele ukuthi yiziphi izinto enizidingayo. Your voice is listened to because we have the interest of the people that you serve, but also the interest of government at heart. With those words, I hereby wish the sectoral parliament fruitful deliberations, but also allow me to leave you with the words of Clive Blake in his poem when he says, "Who is disabled? Is it me or is it you? Should disability be based on an anatomical stocktake or based on what you can do? For I can climb mountains, I can soar through the sky, and I can slay dragons with just blink of an eye. I can overcome barriers, fight against impossible odds, ignore patronizing glances and condescending nods. So, who is disabled? Or is it me, or is it you? Is it completely subjective? It is just your point of view, not my view. I thank you very much. Ke a leboga. Ke a leboga. Baya danki. Re a leboga. Thank you very much and all the best.
Thank you, Honorable Ntombi Mikwe, for your address. There's an announcement. There are microphones on the tables. The interpreting channels, Channel 2 Afrikaans, Channel 3 Sesotho and Setswana, Channel 4 isiZulu and isiXhosa, Channel 5 Xitsonga and Shivenda. Thank you. I would like to welcome Honorable Diopelo Gwala of Independent Electoral Commission.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I greet you all, and it is an honor to be here with you today to commemorate the Human Rights Month. It is also important to note that the Constitution of South Africa enshrined 27 rights and freedoms for all of us. Now, many wonder as to why is the IEC here when there are no elections. The IEC is a permanent constitutional body. We are established by Chapter 9 of the South African Constitution, and the Constitution in Section 1D exists so that IEC can fulfill that constitutional mandate that talks about the universal adult suffrage, the national common voters roll, and regular elections. So when we talk about regular elections, we talk about elections that happens every 5 years. We have local government elections. Every 5 years, we have national and provincial elections. So IEC is then a permanent body to fulfill that constitutional mandate. It is also important to note that we exist to fulfill one of our rights in Section 19, which is the right to vote, the right to participate in the political affairs of your country, the right to establish a political party, and to vote in secret. Furthermore, Chapter 9 of the South African Constitution gives us the mandate, that is what the IEC should do. Our mandate is to administer elections at national, provincial, and local government elections. In between the local government elections, we administer by-elections. We maintain and compile the voters' roll. I believe each one of you is on the voters' roll. So I must just make you aware as well that my colleagues and I, after the event, will be outside. If you wish to change your address or to update your registration details, we are here for you. Now, who qualifies to register is a person who is a South African citizen, above the age of 16, and you are in possession of a South African ID. I'm going to say over 16 song. Right. And lastly, what I need to address with you is your role at the voting stations. This sector is very important. You are not only voters, but you are also, as we observe Section 9 of the Constitution, you are also invited to apply to work at the voting station. We have 529 wards in Gauteng with 2,815 voting stations. That is for the whole of Gauteng, and you are invited to participate. You are not only participating in exercising your right to vote, you also have the right to apply as the employees of the Electoral Commission. In order for you to apply as an employee, you don't wait until it's 2024. You start now creating your profile on our website, which is www.elections.org.za. So you create your profile. Once you have a profile, you can apply for any advertised job. We are aware that some of our offices are a bit far, but our website have got everything that you need to know. And also, Memekho spoke about the Braille ballot paper. I must submit that at the moment, we do not have a Braille ballot paper, but we use to make provision for people with disabilities and anyone who wish to use the Braille, we use a tool called the Universal Ballot Template. Knowing and understanding that not every blind person can read Braille. So we're using the Universal Ballot Template where we use the normal ballot paper and insert it in the UBT or the Universal Ballot Template. So the Braille is written on the side, the numbers of the political parties that are on the ballot paper. So that is my submission. Let me close by saying disability has no age limit. If today you walk tall and look down upon a person with disability, know that there is no age limit. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Diopelo Kwala, for your address. I would like to welcome the MEC for Social Development, Honorable Murakani Musupye, and request her to deliver the keynote address. Okay. I would like to explain to the chairpersons of the various commissions how we will be dealing with the commission's report. I believe that during the discussions of commissions in the workshops, each commission agreed on resolutions that will be presented and tabled in this house today. I will ask the person designated to present the resolution of the commission and hand over the resolution to the service officer after the debate, who will then hand them to the table staff seated in front of me. At the end of the debate, I will hand over all the commission's resolution to the chairperson of the committee of the legislature so that they can be tabled at the meeting and forwarded to the executive for action. Will the secretary please read the first order?
First order is debate about COVID-19.
Honorable T. Manzini.
Greetings, Speaker. I will be speaking on the impact of COVID-19 on persons with disabilities and social development, poverty alleviation program, disability grants, and others. People with disabilities have been differentially affected by COVID-19 because of three factors: the increased risk of poor outcomes from the disease itself, reduced access to routine health care and rehabilitation, the adverse social impact of efforts to mitigate the pandemic. Speaker, 10 years ago, World Health Organization's World Report on Disability noted that people with disabilities were more likely to be older, poorer, experience more comorbidities, and be female. Old age deprivation and comorbidities are also associated with increased risk of severe outcome from COVID-19. One of the enabling milestones of National Development Plan is to entrench a social security system covering all working people with social protection for the poor and other groups in need, such as children and people with disabilities. The NDP acknowledges that persons with disabilities face multiple discriminatory barriers, poverty and exclusion. The NDP can clearly define the challenges experienced by persons with disabilities. The lack of legislation governing the service and rights of people with disabilities contradicts the sense of seriousness the plan seeks to achieve for persons with disabilities. In South Africa, families with disabilities are economically challenged due to the additional costs of living as disabled individuals. The negative economic consequences for society as a whole link to poverty. The COVID-19 pandemic has to some great extent limited the full provision and accessibility of services, and this sector was highly affected. Emerging research on COVID-19 shows that the coronavirus pandemic has increased physical distress both in general population among high-risk groups. Speaker, you will understand that our high-risk groups involve some people who are intellectually disabled or some who are very vulnerable or who are mentally disabled, because in some instances we find that they are normally used to going to organizations, and since COVID pandemic hit South African shores, organizations closed down due to the lockdowns and everything, and some of those vulnerable key population were severely impacted, because if they are used to sitting in the organization, now the organizations has closed down and they are forced now to stay and be cooped at home, and it also affected their parents and their guardians who are perhaps have to go to work, and now they are left to stay in the home and guarding their vulnerable population. So, Speaker, in that negative impact, our sector was severely hit, like behaviors such as physical distancing, as well as their social and economic impacts, our worsening mental health consequences. Research on the psychological impact of mass trauma, e.g. flu outbreak, suggests that the pandemic might particularly harm the mental health of marginalized populations who have less access to socio-economic resources and supportive social networks. The social gradient of risk may influence policies and decision-making related to access to various services. Discrimination has always been a dangerous reality for many people with disabilities in need of moral support. Disability rights organizations are anxious about how these policies may prevent them from getting equitable and fair treatment. People with disabilities have been disproportionately impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, as this vulnerable segment of the population encompasses a variety of conditions and impairments. Those with disabilities have faced many barriers throughout the pandemic. I thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Emma Bukwani.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Under COVID-19, we face so many challenges as people with disabilities. People with disabilities face stigma because of their impairments. They are often marginalized, more so because of their psychosocial disabilities. And it makes them to access basic services such as healthcare. There was a challenge in terms of social security that protect people with disabilities. There was an inability to wear masks due to health risk, because some of people with disabilities can't wear masks because of short breathing. There was a negative consequence as a result to social distancing. What do I mean by the negative consequences in terms of social distancing? Because people with disabilities, others, they are using caregivers. So if you have a caregiver, it's very difficult to practice social distancing. There was a lack of access to COVID-19 tests and testing sites. Some people with disabilities are bedridden, so it's difficult for them to go to testing site and or to get those tests. And others cannot travel independently because of lack of transport. There was a lack of lack of income to meet their personal needs. Some people with disabilities, they were entrenched from their workplaces, and it's become very difficult for them to meet their needs. Some, they were disqualified in terms of their grants, so it's very difficult that if you don't have a grant as a person with disability to meet your needs. There was a lack of proper services, because most of the services, they were working few hours. So it was very difficult for people with disability to get services. Another challenge, Honourable Speaker, that we had, it was a NGO closing down. Because most people with disabilities, they attend to these organizations. So there was a challenge of donations to sustain the organizations. Programs were not attended daily. Our people, their self-confidence was damaged. So even now, we are still trying to activate their self-confidence. People with disabilities were overlooked in terms of food parcels, because for councillors, we're not actually distributing these food parcels to our people with disabilities. So there was a lack of communication with regard to food parcels, because NGOs is a way of distributing food parcel to our people. So they're using councillors. Councillors, they've got their friends and relatives, so they are not using the NGOs to distribute these food parcels. So I'm saying those are the challenges that we had, and I'm begging to the government to say, please come and help us, because down there locally, there are so many challenges that we are facing. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable M. Masibuko.
The government has many of the things that are involved in that to solve these problems with the issues of disabilities. The question will be asked that also, what is it that contributes to this suffering? To actually stop for human people, for humans with disabilities. Also, we are concerned that there are no workshops that have to give us to develop the skills that we have, but to cover or any foundation that is going to be given to us as disabled people. COVID has, in another hand, which is actually strange, that it wasn't even a positive thing when it comes to us as disabled people, have some limitations for COVID that has actually was being implemented when it comes to disabilities and persons with disabilities. If we review the system and we look closely at everything that has happened, the experience, abilities, and their rights have actually become a strange thing, and it has worsened up our lives. The challenge that we are facing, that the persons with disabilities are facing in the communities, it's the experience that we have been facing for a very long time. The challenge of transport, that NGOs are not actually given the mandate to actually solve all of the problems that we have as disabled people. I would like to thank you.
Honorable Dean Gomezulu.
Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, House at Large. I, Daisy Mngomezulu, I continue resolution, the way forward of Commission 1. What solution to be considered to ensure comprehensive provision of services of persons with disability throughout the possible continuation of the COVID-19 pandemic? The Commission has resolved that the following needs to be done. The government must enhance the capacity and resiliency of civil organizations and groups of reach and assist people with disabilities with their families are isolated. Madam Speaker, I want to add something here. We all know that COVID-19 started on March 2020. Many people lost their loved ones and others lost their jobs. Those who passed away from 2020, they were 99 plus until the year 2022. And the school were disrupted. Government introduced a vaccine to decrease from spreading a COVID-19. I continue now. Collaboration with disability structures in the provinces and local communities and services delivered. Protect employment of people with disabilities. Ensure that people with disability and their families get first preferences in various platforms of government services. Monitor and evaluation organization in different regions to discover their needs. That would reduce the number of people with disability from poverty alleviation. Government must implement their policies when it comes to disability programs. People with disability must be included to all task teams of government. Grant in aid must increase our caregivers' stipend can survive with 450. I thank you.
Honorable S. Mukhumuti.
Good day, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, MEC for Social, members of the Parliament. I'm Sbongile Mukhumuti. Here I'm speaking about solutions. The strategic objective outlined by the department is to provide integrated development, social welfare services to facilitate the care, social including economic empowerment of persons with disabilities. The objective seems to be considerate of the NDP's vision of ensuring that persons with disabilities have relevant and accessible development programs that necessitate equal. Although the department indicated to utilizing internet, public meetings, assisting living facilities, among others, to ensure marketing of services. Even so, they are still concerned, noting that the complexity and different types of disability requires different interventions, and this method seems to be comprehensively accommodative. One of the weaknesses identified by the department speaks to limited capacity skills to deal with the different types of disabilities. The department reports to be providing, among others, residential facilities for persons with disabilities, assisted living facilities for persons with disabilities, managed by funded non-profit organizations, and protective workshops for persons with disabilities managed by funded NPOs. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected persons with disability in the line of poverty and some disability candidates? grants termination to some temporary recipient candidates and no renewal. Unfair food parcels contribution to real families in need. How ready was government in assisting persons with disability during the pandemic? Not ready. Lack of sufficient budget to accommodate special projects, e.g. home-based care services. Lack of training and workshops to NGOs in response of COVID-19 effectively. Delay of PPEs distribution to NGOs. I thank you.
I now call for open time and will only allow 4 participants to speak to the debate. Also note that the participants who are on the speaking list will not be allowed to speak during open time. Also, do not forget to mention your name and Rule 77.7. Thank you. Honorable Emma Zibuko.
One, two. I'd like to thank you, Chairperson, and thanks for giving me this opportunity because I had limited time to actually talk about my speech, especially when it comes to COVID. You see, and on the issue of housing, I'm going to start by saying that the experience and the challenge that we're facing as disabled people, especially for the deaf people and the blind people. Yes, we do have grants. We all have grants, but for the housing department, for us to get in, us asking that can we actually apply for a house as disabled people? And they will ask us if we do have children, and we'd say, yes, we have children. Okay, but I'm disabled. I'm getting 250 for the kids at that time. And I would ask them, what is it that I needed to do for me to apply for a house? Then they wanted me to add my grant for myself. I felt that actually they are a barrier to what we as deaf people are actually experiencing as the disabled. You see, with the grant that I get, the kids that I have, I can't even afford a house. But then we are suffering as disabled people. Blind people, they are suffering. Disabled people are suffering. There is no access for us. They would ask us to volunteer, but they would never actually even give us that job to be actually promoted in any position. All they want is to just give us a grant that we can't even afford the housing or anything. We are suffering as disabled people, as differently disabled. And you see, we need to be empowered, that we get our own houses. We get our special places. You see, those that cannot see, those that cannot walk, they must actually, even the deaf community, must actually have their special place in these houses that we are given by government. I don't know why, because from a long time ago, houses have been given to other people. We have been voting, but we trying to be involved and trying to change in the struggle. There is no change that we are trying to, every time we're trying to push for change, we always get barriers. Yes. And also, you see, we as disabled people, we've got a communication barrier. We are trying to get into all departments. You see, you get into the Department of Health, let's say into government, you find that there is no interpreter. And even just for government to just employ one interpreter, that when we get there, the person has the skill of sign language that we can understand each other when we're speaking. We're asking the government to please empower itself. Even in the police, in the hospitals, people are misdiagnosed in the hospitals because there is no interpreter. So we are asking, and I'm thanking you, Chairperson, very much that.
Honorable member at the back.
Thank you, Speaker. I'll speak on two topics very briefly. One is the security of disabled people. That is simply non-existent in this province. The police are understaffed. They have only 35,000 members. They need at least, in terms of our investigation, they need at least double that number, 70,000 to effectively contribute towards securing and safeguarding people with disabilities and other people. Section 205 of the Constitution refers to the issues, the mandate of the South African Police Service, and I'll refer you to that. I won't go through it now because of the time issue. The second thing is the standing orders and the national instructions of the South African Police cannot be complied with by the South African Police because they are understaffed. If you take in a practical sense, Alberton is a colonel station. It's supposed to have a minimum of between 260 and 400 members. They're functioning with 120. Lenasia, which is a brigadier station, is supposed to have a minimum of 1,000 people to 500 people, but they function with 117. They cannot deal with crime and criminals. It's a simple fact, Speaker, that the police are understaffed, they're undertrained, and they're under-resourced. They work in silos compared to the Gauteng Traffic Department. The municipal, the metro police work in silos. There is no proper coordination among them. This needs to be addressed to safeguard people with disabilities. I urge you to take this into account and let this become one of the priorities for the coming year. The second point that I want to raise regards the trauma that is suffered by people in the Johannesburg municipality. The City Council of Johannesburg is traumatizing senior citizens and people with disabilities by sending them pre-termination notices to disconnect their electricity and water. And if a person, for instance, council claims, it's all based on estimations, that they owe 60,000 rand. When you go to the office of the municipality, the officials harass you, they don't listen to you, they don't want to hear an explanation, they force you to sign agreements that you cannot comply with. Now, if a person gets 1,890 rand as a SASSA grant, where do they get the additional 2,000 rand from to pay for that so-called outstanding debt? We're asking the provincial legislature to take effective, strong, and immediate action to deal with this problem because it's traumatizing us. And we're looking to you to help us. We can provide you with all the information. We can provide you with everything that you need to deal with this matter, but you need to help us to deal with this thing. This is happening throughout Johannesburg, and the target areas are predominantly black areas. You will not find these pre-termination notices being given to predominantly white residential areas. And we're asking you to help us to deal with this. The next point, which relates also to senior citizens, the safety at the SASSA offices. They have to be there at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning just to make an application. We are robbed there. There's no security. The SASSA officials arrive at 7:30. They only open the doors at 9:30. You sit there the whole day. There are no toilet facilities. When it rains, we get wet in the rain.
Honourable Member, may I please wrap up?
When it's cold, we are cold.
Honourable Member.
So those are the 2 points that I would urge this forum and the legislature to help us to deal with. Thank you.
Honourable members, do not forget to mention your name and Rule 77.7.
Good day, Honourable Speaker. My name is Nkosana Mjali from Thokoza. I have a concern here. I think as people with disabilities should have been presented with an opportunity to speak to an official from the economic development so that we can actually raise our concerns in as far as businesses are concerned. So I would appreciate next time if you make such an event, please invite people from economic development so that we can actually raise our issues to them.
Thank you, Speaker. My Kamala Mutulane is born where Ekurhuleni Davidson. Now, I'm eating in Kalangaya in like if the food parcel lockdown in 2020. No, I come food parcel and Wabonilla for Mala Davidson for a disability in Dokala. Like my food parcel, my figure, I feel go on to normally. Mata pega no one disability enyambona hambala na mafuta sel. Sacela utama social development. Baitule so mabaezi plan. Bangani abantu abanomali ama disability maning le Davidson. Amen.
Honorable Member T. Manzini, please reply to the debate and move for the adoption of the Commission's report.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I didn't hear the questions from the speakers on open time. I was expecting my honorable there to speak on the open time. So the impact of COVID-19 really affected people with disabilities in a sense that you find that wherever you want to go, there are restrictions and COVID-19 regulations. So people with disabilities were severely affected in that sense. So I would request the government to come down to the people in their offices of their councillors. At least if they have the disability desks there, we would find it easier for people with disabilities to raise their concerns, and their concerns will be closer to the legislation government. I, Honorable Manzini, chairperson of this commission, move for the commission speaker to adopt this report in terms of 164 read with Rule 117, taking into account all the contributions made. I thank you, Speaker.
I now call for a seconder.
Paramount Chief Richard from the Bekorana seconds this motion.
I now put the question. All those in favor, say yes. All those not in favor, say no. I now put the question. All those in favor, say yes. Yes. All those not in favor, say no. The yes have it. The report is adopted. Kindly hand the resolution of the Commission on debate on the impact of COVID-19 on persons with disabilities and social development. I now declare the debate on the impact of COVID-19 on persons with disabilities and social development closed. Will the Secretary please read the second order?
The second order, Speaker, is impact accessibility on healthcare facilities.
I now call on Honorable Chairperson of this commission to present their commission. Honorable B. Mahlokomani.
Honorable Speaker and Deputy Speaker and the House at large. My name is Bongad Mahlokomani. I'm presenting on behalf of Commission 2, which is accessibility to health care services during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Commission is going to speak about the challenges. The global crisis of COVID-19 deeply pre-existing inequality exposing the extent of exclusion and highlighting that people on disability are imperative. Approximately 1 billion people who's living with disability are mostly excluded groups in our society. And among the hardest hit by COVID-19. The protection of people with disabilities is entrenched within a core legislative acts in South Africa, including the Constitution of 1996 and the Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act of 2001. Furthermore, South Africa was the second country to ratify the United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, which speaks directly to the rights of people with disabilities to access information, transportation, healthcare, and the right to life. Despite these protections, the remaining high levels of exclusion of particular reference to the coronavirus, which is COVID-19. These include challenges in the transportation, personal care, communication, therapeutics, interventions, rehabilitation, medication, access intervention in care unit, beds and ventilator support, and discriminatory triage policies. This briefly challenges faced by people with disability in accessing the healthcare services during the COVID-19 pandemic in South Africa. I thank you.
Honorable S. Dlamini.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker, all the members of Parliament. I'm here to present the challenges due to accessibility, healthcare services by PWDs, which is people with disabilities. Persons with disabilities on Department of Health are struggling or and are excluded to a right, respect, and human dignity. Because when it comes to like about your disability, they tabularize your disability. Number two, if they treat you in a different manner as if you are not a person. When it comes to buildings and accessing for blind people, they will say to you, "Uhamba nobani noma kwenzakalani ngawe, why uhamba uyi-one?" It seems like I'm not a person. They won't help me because I am going alone. So I am excluded. It seems to me I am not a person. During COVID-19, Honorable Speaker, President was speaking and speaking and speaking a lot, but us as persons with disability, we were excluded. Meanwhile, government begati, meanwhile, when it comes to go to the clinics and hospitals, siyasonke. But us as persons with disability, we were excluded. The health desk were shifting the appointment each and every time. Meanwhile, cost of living on that time was too high. When it comes to when it comes to employment. People with disability on Department of Health, there is a smaller number of an employment for them. Honorable Speaker, the Department of Health is failing us as persons with disability due to safety. Our buildings are not user-friendly for us. And the buildings sometimes are not accessibly to experience or to feel myself as a person with disability that I'm a human. And even though there are awarenesses that we are doing, but the Department of Health is failing us. So, Honorable Speaker, the Department of Health must do, or the legislature must do something about us, because really, really, nothing about us without us. Thank you.
Honorable Speaker, greetings to you, Deputy Speaker, Gauteng Legislature Speaker, Mamuntombi, Linton Mehwe, and the House at large. I greet you all. I am Sipo Matela from Gauteng in Ekurhuleni. I stand here to talk about health issues when it comes to people with disabilities. My first point would be that people with disabilities, when they go to the public institutions, health institutions, might be clinic, might be hospitals, they are just going there to receive Panados. While you want to go to private hospital, you'll be receiving proper health care. So health is not yet inclusive to everyone. The poor of the poorest from the location are not receiving best of health treatment. My second point, my speaker and honorable members, would be that there is no privacy when you go to hospitals. The very same people who are assisting us, they'll be wanting to enter into the same room where we enter with a doctor or with a nurse. And with that reason or with that purpose, that infringes on one's privacy. Because all of us have rights, and I also have a right to enter a room and have a doctor and a patient confidentiality. The other point that I wish to raise, Madam Speaker, is the social distancing. Since COVID-19 from 2020, we have been having challenge, Honorable Speaker and members, due to the social distancing. How do you have social distancing when you're assisting a blind person? How is that realistic? Is that practical? My other point, which is the third point, is the assistive device that us as persons with disabilities, we expect to be receiving from different hospitals and different healthcare facilities, also even clinics. There are no wheelchairs, there are no canes for blind people, and there are no hearing aids for the deaf community. Where are we expected to find this assistive device? How do you expect a person who's on the wheelchair to wait for a year or 2 years? Is that fair? Must my life as a blind person wait for that I do not have a cane for a year or 2 years? My other issue, Madam Speaker and members, is this medication that is not in Braille in our different institutions of health. Why is this medication is not in Braille? Because whenever I go to home and I ask for the other person to help me, the very same person will be infringing on my privacy rights. They will be saying that, hey, this person, and that is not right, Madam Speaker. My last point, Madam Speaker and members, would be our health facilities are too far for our members. We'd like maybe in future to consider that issue, that our health facilities are too far. I thank you, Speaker and members. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the House at large. My name is Jerin Kambule. My disability is T10 incomplete paraplegic. I'm standing here for the accessing healthcare services during COVID-19 solutions. First, Chair, Health Department must empower PWDs to take control over their own healthcare decisions on the basis of informed consent. Improve service delivery for PWDs. Government must offer more awareness campaigns with regards quality healthcare to PWDs. Make turnaround time for PWDs for their wheelchairs so that we don't see those skorokoro wheelchairs on our roads. Inclusive treatment for albinos, because mostly they are left behind for their skin care. Improve research data to monitor, evaluate, and strengthen health system to include and delivering of their medication, devices, and so on. Home-based care must have outpatient data for the sake of giving them some exercise lessons. Some nurses are not offering an effective treatment to PWDs. They used to call them names, and that must come to an end. I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the House at large. I'm Lindu M. Timuni. Adding on the solutions, according to the World Health Organization's 2020 government should take the following actions in order to ensure that people with disability access healthcare services during COVID-19. Include captioning and, where possible, sign language for all live and recorded events and communications. This includes national addresses, press briefings, and live social media. Ensure that information about the accessibility of COVID-19 health services is reported to the people with disability and their caregivers. Deliver the telehealth for the people with disability, provide telephone consultations, text messaging, and the video conferencing for the delivery of the health care for people with disability. This may be care for people with disability. This may be for their general health and include rehabilitations, needs, and where appropriate COVID-19 related needs. Thina sizing disability, sibawa ukuthi i-legislator ibe nozwelo, silete izikhalazo zethu isizwele ubuhlungu. Njengomana masifika ezibhedlela asithola uncedo ngefanelo, siphelelwa inhliziyo. Bathi kunabantu phambili, mari disability abayibali ukuthi nayo phambili. Sithi legislator sincede, sengiyabonga.
I now call for an open time and will only allow 4 participants to speak to the debate. Also note that participants who are on the speaking list will not be allowed to speak during open time. Also, do not forget to mention your name and Rule 77.7. Thank you.
Igama lami uVusi wakamzinyane, ngihlala eJohn Dube. Ngizokhuluma mainguni language. I'd like to greet you all and the honorable judicators and the House at large. Singabantu, people with disability. Ngizobuya la kuma assisting device and universal device. Number 1, siphila esikhathini se-4th Industrial Revolution. I am tired to carry this cane. Cause sithi siku-4th IR now. So, sisinama smart cane, even abantu abahamba ngama-wheelchairs, siyacela ukuthi yonke into yabo ihambisane nesikhathi esiphila kuso. Other thing, government, we are dividing 20 by 20 answers itholi, guys. Kade sihamba i-legislator. Kade sihamba i-legislator, which means sibuyela ku-animal farm, ku-Joel's always life. Other animals are sleeping on bed, others sleeping on the floor with disability. Number 2, kuma universal design. Siyacela ukuthi sibe ne-access ey'tratini lapho esihamba khona kuma-department everywhere. Everywhere. And it naku Department of Health, they fail us. Esikhathini esiningi sinceda ama-NGO. I-government ayenzi nix for us. Ayenzi nix for us. And then nakuwe sisiba honorable sisintombi Mihwe. Uyazi kade siyikhuluma lento. Nakama resolution siyabonga into le yase life esidibe ukuthi nigcine nithathele phezulu. Siyabonga kulokho. Nakulento ye age, this thing ye age is not implemented very well kuma department. Mawufika laphayana bazokutshela ukuthi you are above 35. It's not implemented very well. Bese sibuya nala kule issue ya COVID, mina nga vaccinated another, but they refer me to a Pulusong. They know ukuthi I'm blind. Bangithumele Pulusong for a second vaccination. Inokuthela ngwenya clinic, iyasifeyila. Kune other guy bengimphelezele, he's blind. Bamgcina abona, now he's totally blind. Ama-nurse laphana bathi wena uqale nini ukungaboni? Ngiyomenzela i-grant, but like ngicina ngimenzela i-grant ngendaba ukuthi ngilwe ngaze ngafika nalapho ngamele ngifike khona. So, this thing, each and every department ukulento ye-disability desk siyacela. Cause abantu ababa lapha kulama desk wonke ama department we government, kungaba i-Department of Health, wonke ama department, asinayo le disability, a person with disability who's going to help us. Siyacela ukuthi ke nisicabangeleni. Kade si divide to 20 by 20, we are the wandering swallow. Asizazi ukuthi simephi siyakhuluma la makumele izinto zi-implementeka sa-implementeki. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Nalibitso la ka ke Masentle Mofokeng. I hereby tla bua ka di-challenges under Rule 77.7. The rules the challenges tse re kopanang le tsona tsa health. I'm a quadriplegic. I was due to a car accident. Challenge how you go hospital as a quadriplegic. We don't want to be admitted because in the hospital they don't want to be the caregiver. As the quadriplegic, most of the time the palliative caregiver they know us better. So when we hospital admit her, about the caregiver next to you, and then the nurses are not doing properly when you are admitted. Speaker, the other thing that I request from disability sector is for Department of Health to do a research on the cost of people with disability in regard to the devices, and then the other things that we use as people with disability. There are extra things that I cannot mention in this house that we as people with disability are using. But we only find that the government is giving equal amount, which is 1.8 as a disability grant. And that money is very little, as we had to buy medication, we had to to use accessible transport and other extras. We need to buy food. There are so many things that people with disability had to do with a little of 1.8. So if the Department of Health can do research and check how much a disabled person had to spend every month, the money will be far much bigger than what we are getting at the moment. Another thing, Speaker, is the issue of 2% of the employment. The COVID has affected us as people with disability, but we realize that maybe the government still stuck on a 2% of saying people with disability can be employed. We need to raise that number so that it cannot be 2%, can be 6%, because most of people with disability during COVID have also lost their job, they are employed. So I thank you.
Tobela. I raise on rule 77.7. Nagi Lazarus Kepe wa Maponya. Before, Chair, benga vuze question one. MEC war now guy, if then somebody can just assist me, or MEC war now guy. That is my first question. Okay. Because yesterday Urlo Uilo were busy, then Remudumele Joratzamaye, today okay. That's my question before I could just enter a lot of things. The second question, the importance of this parliament. If then MECSIG important this parliament, then whatever series village mo living there to my butcher na say a guy. Silo wela ka ramatso wa mang. That's our question. Because ke kwele go bolela gore the head of the portfolio le ena ga gona we le di embassy. I'm starting questioning myself for the importance of this parliament. So re putisha or namara hu ilo dira langa parliament. Are we here for are actimo? We are not here for generation. Are to actamo. If somebody will only information legally, they must come to us for assist because we are using somebody's money here. Somebody's tax here. So somebody, if then something illegally, something assist. We can't just come here every year, watch at the same thing. So we don't even know. We don't even know what Riagai got this parliament. But when there are public protectors, we have to go to them. Reflect about this parliament. Yellow doesn't even help us anything. We can't just come here. We are here. It's what Arto ja fela ra paralala raisha malauli. Thank you.
Honorable B. Mahlomani, please reply to the debate and move for the adoption of the Commission's report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I, Honorable Bongan Mahlomane, of this commission of Commission 2. I move forward in this report. In terms of Rule 164, read with Rules 117, taking into account all contributions are made. And the report is adopted. I thank you.
I now call for a seconder. You are acknowledged, Honorable. That's it. Yes. At the back.
We all like to have an RDP house because okay, let me make it like this easier. We like to, like the lady was saying, we want to stay at our own placements, but we're struggling and things like that. But the whole thing is, we come here every year, like the last time we were here, 2019, like you were saying. So now we're coming again here together to just say, we would like to have an RDP house for the people who stays in the care centers. There are patients there that are not mental disordered, but we are also up to normal. And
Honorable Member, may you please wrap up?
We are not mental disordered, but some of us
Honorable
are
Member.
right and fine. And I would like to say that we must give, ons moet aandag daaraan gee.
I now put the question. All those in favor say yes. For those not in favor, say no. The yes have it. The report is adopted. Kindly hand the resolution of the Commission on Debate on Accessibility to Healthcare Services by Pwds during COVID-19 pandemic. I now declare the debate on accessibility to healthcare services by Pwds during COVID-19 pandemic closed. Will the Secretary please read the third order?
Participants must, the debate on participants of people with disability is in the economy and education. Thank you.
I now call on Honorable T. Korela, the chairperson of this commission, to present their commission's report.
Just a minute. Madam Speaker, the House at large, Ndiyabulisa, with all the protocol observed. It is estimated that 8 out of 10 persons with disabilities are unemployed according to the survey conducted by VETS 2018. There are some measures in place designed to all such as equity, black economic empowerment, as well as constitution of the country. But these are far from enough. The lack of meaningful participation in the economy, coupled with the lack of ability. Madam Speaker, may I remind this House that all children, including those with disability, have a right to free and compulsory education and to secondary education and further education or training. All persons with disability have a right to continue learning and learn and progress on an equal basis with other people.
May I also remind this House that South Africa was one of the first countries to ratify the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disability 2007. And it is a party to 5 key international human rights treaties and 2 African treaties protecting and guaranteeing children economic and social rights. Since 1996, the government has also introduced strong constitutional protection and legal and policy measures to safeguard every children's right to education, free from discrimination. However, based on the Human Rights Watch report, it is found that progress on paper for children with disabilities has not translated to equal opportunities or protection on the ground. These reports questioned whether the government of South Africa has prioritized the children with disability to access quality, inclusive education. It has, as it committed itself 21 years ago on the Education White Paper, and the report further highlighted numerous forms of discriminations and obstacles that children with disability face in trying to access education that foster inclusion, not segregation or integration. The debate on people with disabilities remain relevant and significant in South Africa context. South Africa has a past or history not worth noting, which has played a significant role for current circumstances in the country. The country is coming from the history of marginalization and exclusion of certain groups, especially people living with people with disability, from participation in the society and economy. Study recognizes that discrimination okay, sorry for that, I'm losing my page here. I've lost my page here. Yeah, it's right at the top. Yeah. Where is it now? I don't know, is it 3? Where is it now? Yeah. Okay. All right. Faced with people with disability in wide-ranging and relating to discussion including access to employment and education. This remains the case in the democratic South Africa, despite the effort made to address the imbalances of the past and to ensure that the equality amongst different groups of people. Hence, the debate on the relevance of the participation of people persists. This discussion unpacks the participation of people with disability in the economy in general, focusing on significant facets such as entrepreneurship, small and businesses support and funding, and employment to better understand the plight facing with the people with disabilities. The global participation, the Global Partnership for Education estimate that 90% of the children with disability in the low and lower middle income countries do not go to school. That's shocking, Madam Speaker. In 2016, the United Nations reported that less than half of the world's 6 million refugee children were in school, while in a report on the education of the Syrian refugee children, Human Rights Watch identified that refugee children with disability face particular and ongoing barriers to school enrollment. Historically, children with disability have been excluded from the general education system, placed in a special school. In some cases, they are separated from their families and placed in the long residential institution where they are educated in isolation from the community. If they are educated at all, both practices persist in many regions. For example, Eastern Europe has the highest number of institutionalized children in the world, and children in the disability is economically 17 times more likely to be institutionalized than other children. Children with disability have previously had low rate of initial enrollment, even if they attend school. Children with disability are more likely to drop out and leave school early without transitioning to secondary school, are also at an increased risk of school violence, bullying, preventing safe enjoyment of their rights to education. And figures reflects the impact of significant ongoing barriers in the education faced by many people with disability, which include one, lack of access, both in terms of physical inaccessible school building and on equal terms with all others. 3, exclusion or segregation from mainstream school settings. Madam Speaker, it is welcoming to hear that Gauteng Province has reached the target of 2% and is also planning on 2024 that is going to increase this percentage on employment to 4%. But it is so disappointing to note that the private sector, being a biggest employer, is lagging behind in terms of meeting the target. So as one of the speakers there has said, we need employment. As we know that the economic hardship is getting worse and worse for everyone. You can imagine for a person with disabilities. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Ekurhuleni.
Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, honorable members of the House, all protocol observed. Abshin. Madam Speaker, I'll be going through a presentation of a report for you on the challenges for participation of PWDs, persons with disabilities, in the economy. And they are in a bullet point form, and then they read as follows. Bullet point number 1. It is lack of equipment and machinery. Disabled entrepreneurs do not have equipment or machinery to accommodate their disabilities in the workplace. For example, a computer with voice modulation, such as JAWS, to help the blind person costs a lot for a small entrepreneur. Bullet point number 2. Discrimination attitude. People do not take the work done by persons with disability serious, as they believe they are not competent enough. Bullet point number 3. Business network. Business of discrimination. Because of discrimination, it is difficult to network with other entrepreneurs. For example, the focus will be on the disfigurement than on what PWD's business is about. Bullet point number 4. Startup capital. Funders are not keen to offer loans to entrepreneurs with disabilities as they consider high risk and lack competence to run the business. Bullet point number 5. Support centers. There is lack of information about support centers for entrepreneurs with disabilities. Bullet point number 6. Education and training. There is no adequate knowledge and teaching on how to manage various entrepreneurial aspects, a business bearing in mind that most PWDs have little schooling. I'll be going through the legislation. Yeah. The legislation and policy frameworks should form the foundation for the discussion. Despite that, Section 9 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, 1996, on the Bill of Rights, entrenches rights for equality. Studies point out that compared to countries like Kenya, Australia, and United Kingdom, the country has no specific PWDs Act, and that is one of the most stubborn and more prominent challenges we have as persons with disabilities, Madam Speaker, and we need to sort that one out. Sibande, 2015, as cited in the Human Science Research Council, the HSRC of 2018, states that South Africa does not have a necessary legislation or a framework to monitor, intervene, and provide justice for persons with disabilities when necessary. If this is the case or remains a reality, it should be a cause for concern for PWDs about the protection of high rights. However, some laws exist to ensure the application of the Bill of Rights. Such include the Employment Equity Act 55 of 1998, the EEA, and the Promotion of Equity and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act 4 of 2000, the PEPUDA. The foregoing outlined two important pieces of legislation with a common purpose of prohibiting discrimination against PWDs. The South African Human Rights Commission, the SAHRC of 2018, asserts that there is need to promote substantive equality through the implementation of affirmative action to ensure.
Honorable member, may you please wrap up?
To ensure redress and equitably representation to the workplace. There was also the Integrated National
Honorable
Disability.
member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable M. Mashigwani.
Greetings to our Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the protocol observed. I go by the name of Malaika Mashigwane. I'll be addressing solution about education and economy in our country. It is an honor for me to address the solution for participation in the economy. Scrapping of learnership for people with disability, put in its place in internships directly related to jobs. Review the metric requirements, especially if people with disability has a number of learnership certificates already. Assist people with disability with compliance requirement in light. Many did not finish the basic education like metric. Improve the monitoring of the implementation of equity and etc. Give discount to people with disability when paying for compliances documents. Give more entrepreneurial training for people with disabilities. More information about economic opportunities should be given. However, according to the human rights, which reports, it is found that the progress on paper for people with disability has not translated into equal opportunity or protection on the ground. I thank you, my Madam Speaker.
Honorable J. Lushaba.
Greetings, Honorable Speaker, and the House at large. My name is Jabu Lushaba. I'm from Sidibeng. To be specific, at the area called Lesedi Municipality. I'm going to speak on participation of people with disability in education. There are questions. One is, are all institutions in this country accessible for people with disabilities? The answer, no. Public transport is a problem. We can't access it. Ibhlungu public transport bakwethu. You come with your wheelchair. Usabagibeli bathi mshiyeni lo ezosibambezela. You come with your walking stick. Iyaphi le mpuphuthi yenkosi wayingahlala ekhaya. What will you eat when you stay at home? Who's going to provide for you? Going to school, it's a problem for people with disabilities. The structures are not built in a way that it accommodates people with disabilities. The pavements inside the schoolyards are not user-friendly for us. The access to building, inkinga na yourself. Le kolo zakhandwa kudala emandulo were not considered when they were built, and we have to use them. When the time comes for one to complete matric or school, it's a problem because most of us will become illiterate due to the environment that we are living in. So we appeal to the legislature to make this situation a little bit better. Because of the less progress has been made to place children with less severe disability in mainstream school, they are still forced to go far from their home, as my chairperson has alluded. And we are still part of this community, or every community. Schools are often decide whether they are willing or able to accommodate students with disabilities or needs. In many cases, children with intellectual disability or multiple disabilities and optimism, fertile alcohol syndromes are particularly disadvantaged. Students with disabilities receiving reasonable accommodation in class are receiving, can I repeat this please? Pardon me. Are students with disabilities receiving reasonable accommodation in classrooms and appropriate materials to work with? No. PWDs find themselves in constantly faced with discrimination from educators, from other schoolmates, because bakubiza ngamagama. If you are a slow learner, bazokubiza uTDD, they call you Matsidi, so all the names you can think of, and discrimination is not allowed in this country. I therefore request our legislature and our national government to listen to our needs and attend to them. In closing, where is our MEC? Because we don't like to talk to ourselves. It's enough. Where is our MEC? Thank you.
Honorable M. Matonsi.
I greet you, Honorable Speaker, and the House of Arch. My name is Mpumelelo Matonsi. I'll be addressing the challenges. The question is, what can be done to address these challenges? Inclusive education focused on ensuring the whole school environment is designed to foster inclusion. not segregation or integration. Children with disability should be guaranteed equality in the entire process of their education, including by having meaningful choices and opportunity to be accommodated in mainstream school if they choose, and to receive quality education on equal basis with and alongside children without disability. The government should take immediate steps to turn its inclusive education policy commitment into the legal binding obligation. This includes ensuring it honors a policy of inclusive education by making sure that children with disability have an equal opportunity and option to go to mainstream schools that are accessible, free of violence, and receive a quality education that addresses and accommodation their needs. All students with disability can complete basic education at minimal. All students with disability have equal opportunity to continue learning or enter vocational education and training. Adequate consulting with children and their families to determine a school place maximum their academic and social development consistent with the goals of full inclusion. Translate Education White Paper 6 into a comprehensive law-binding to national and provincial government, ensuring it is in ability. Ensure implementation of national policy on screening, identification, assessment, and support designed to ensure school and education officially provided by children with disability with full support and needed. I thank you.
I'll now call for open time and will only allow 4 participants to speak to the debate. Also note that participants who are on the speaking list will not be allowed to speak during open time. Also, do not forget to mention your name and Rule 77.7. Thank you. Honorable member, you are acknowledged.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My name is Dion Torres. I'm all the way from Easters. Honorable Speaker, allow me to greet the House at large and all its candidates that are here today. Honorable Speaker, I hear a lot of things that has been said with tears in their eyes and painful words. Honorable Speaker, from the Department of Health up to the Department of Housing, I'm actually have been asking myself, is there a solution to all these raising issues? And I came to a conclusion, yes, there is a solution, especially to the one gentleman who said he's sick and tired of his cane. That one is from the Department of Health. Currently, as I'm sitting here, I have designed a cane, especially for blind people. I call it the day and night cane. But it means that the Department of Health had to come to the table. Because every time when people with disability raise issues based on that can assist them, it's always a budget story. Especially from the economical side, they will always tell you it's a budget issue. So I'm here to make myself available with some of the commissions of the industry to say, listen, yeah, we can assist our people. Currently, I've designed a wheelchair that's suitable for the average person who doesn't have a medical. That's the reason why I said it. My friend just said yesterday that I have wheelchairs that I change every year. These wheelchairs are specifically designed for economical disabled people, especially the one that I'm currently busy with, the electric one, and there's one, the day and night cane, is for our visual impact people. Now when I come back to our health perspective, I would like one of the health department people that are here to visit this house. Go to the back and see for yourself when we speak about COVID-19. Just go into the toilet and it actually said to be in this building. First of all, what if something should happen? There's no off-ramp. We need to sort out that one out. That's not a slim excuse when it comes to people with disability. Secondly, for the economical side, Honorable Speaker, I'm not selling a business. I'm a person that wants to assist people. Giovanni Business Consultant. This guy, especially when we met, he went on training just to assist people with disability based on their businesses. So I make myself available after this for those who want the phone number, but I think it's much better for the department to come to the table because it will cost money to upgrade these people's business profile and to assist them in the best way, Giovanni businesses, because if they could have assisted me, how many of these people that are sitting here? Then it means next time when we come here, when Zain give a report back, he can say with open eyes and an open heart to say, listen here, 2002 was a fruitful year with the feedback. Yes, we are glad for all the feedback that he gave us, but there's a lot of challenges that needs to come out of this for us, especially from your political side. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Speaker, chairpersons, and all members, all protocol observed. My name is Tami Mufukeng from Kliporki in Boksburg. I'm going to touch on the matter of the education system. My question is, are there any policies in place for children who might have a disability while in the normal stream? I'm asking this because you get situations whereby this person, first of all, going to bed, a normal person and waking up with a disability is depressing on its own. So what if this child gets this disability, this stress already, so kuti, and then this child goes back to school. And then akuna policies in place that are guiding the education system and the schools, ukuthi, how do you gel in this child now back to the system? Because we are living in a generation where depression is becoming serious and our children are very fragile. Number two, in workplaces, can our government please, they must enforce our employers to have policies for people with disabilities, because employers end up thumbsucking what to do when they have employees that were normal and then they become disabled. It is disturbing and it is embarrassing. Can our government please force our employers? Because if in a public sector you have organizations that do not have policies for people with disabilities, what of the private sector? Our public sector should lead by example. I thank you.
Sanmanan nonke ya mina ngibuya ePronga Sprite eMF. Ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi ngale gezi lena engangale eMF ngale why bayicima ngale man yes. Ngoba le gezi lengale eMF ngale isilimazele izinto ngale man. Ngoba igezi ngale eMF ngale isigubhu sangale eMF ngale omunye umuzi sishile ngale. Ale gezi ngale eMF ngale. Ngicela solo bavusa itoyi ngale eMF ngale. Ngale gezi le ngale eMF ngale masukumeni sonke man ngale gezi le ngale eMF ngale man solo siyakhala ngale gezi le man solo kuyahamba iyabuya solo kuyahamba iyabuya ngale gezi ngale eMF ngale man masukumeni sonke ngale gezi le ngale man ngiyabonga man mphakathi wami.
Honorable Speaker and the Deputy Speaker and the House at large, I rise in a Rule 77.7 is Bongile Dameni. Kwindaba ye education, both higher and basic education. Utinu government, when it comes to age limit, because there are people with disabilities, abayithole on a later stage. So, even though bayithola on a later stage, so nakubona age limit iyakhawunta. Sama learnership esiwatholayo anga absorbi. We are tired of that. And also for blind people, especially for blind people, ngenxa yokuthi thina asinama assistive devices are right. Sizoza nangaphansi. Ayiphele leyo nto leyo. Nathi singabantu. We are people. And the lama learnership after that, our absorbi. So the government must do monitoring and evaluation thoroughly. Not for only people who are not able, who are not disabled. Because people who are not, who living without disability, bayaqashwa. Thina nje kukuba ilo 12 months, even the practical classes asisingeni. Namply lama learnership, thina we are too excluded, blind and deaf people. Si excluded kakhulu. Asithathwa thina, even though mina and I am under 35, but I've been applying those learnerships and those short courses, but because of I am blind person, abangthathi, and at that reason yokuthi ama assistive devices asinawo, it's a lie. It's a pure lie, because awukwazi isitha ikuphe imali for nothing. No. And they say laba bantu laba, when it comes to lama companies lawo must apply in learnership, they say we take persons with disabilities. They're not saying excluding blind people or deaf people, but when it comes to application, Tina, we are excluded. Thank you.
Honorable T. Korela, please reply to the debate and move for the adoption of the Commission's report. Only four.
Someone, Mr. Mangwapa, want to raise a question? Go over to you, Mr. Mangwapa.
I got the hope of it is why when a person with disability doesn't have qualifications, why can't we apply for learnership and jobs? And if you are at school to continue and disability, I suggest that the different challenges and put them according to their challenges and assist them according to their challenges. Thank you.
Honorable T. Korela, please reply to the debate and move for the adoption of the Commission's report.
Honorable Speaker, from the comments and debate from the floor, it highlights the seriousness of these twin, the education and the economy. It's the hope for abantu abane disability to empower them to move further. So all the comments that it's incorporated in the report that we are submitting. So without further ado, I'm moving for the submission in terms of Rule 164 and 117, submitting the report for your scrutiny. I thank you.
I now call for a seconder.
Honourable Speaker, I think two or number three, if I might, it can't say because if I might, I could disabled, so the must carry, but abafaku umolti lethe me yenze kobe umidinkinga mina. I was working in the hospital for 3 years, 3 months. Mara I post I put for what? I asked them. So I don't no.
I now put the question. All those in favor say yes. Yes. All those not in favor say no. The yes have it. The report is adopted. Kindly hand the resolution of the Commission on Participation of People with Disabilities in the Economy and Education. I now declare participation of people with disabilities in the economy and education closed. Will the Secretary please read the fourth order?
The first order is debate on person with disability accessibility to the RDP houses. Thank you.
I now call on Honorable S. Ntuli, the chairperson of this commission, to present their commission's report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and the House at large, my name is Bonyile Ntuli. I'm the chairperson of Commission 4. We respect and acknowledge that the government has done the policy that says first priority is person with disability and elderly people. But still, people with disability are struggling to get houses. There are over 650 million estimated people with disability worldwide organization and World Bank of 2011. South Africa has estimated disability privilege rate of 7.5, excluding psychosocial and cognitive disability. This implies over 2.8 million of South Africans has faced difficulties related to hearing, vision, communication, walking, climbing stairs, remembering, and self-care, according to statistics of South Africa of 2011. Safe, secured, and suitable housing is critical to the well-being of people with disability. People with disability have reported that having control over the living environment, a safe space, stability support, resource, and inclusive neighborhood are of central importance to their well-being. Adequate houses is also necessary for the realization of their rights as specified in the International Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disability. Housing assistance is available to the beneficiary from government and non-government organizations. Over the past 2 decades, housing costs in the private rental market have increased substantially in real terms. This makes difficult for low-income earners, particularly those receiving government grants, to find and keep suitable houses. Madam Speaker, the Reconstruction and Development Program of RDP is a South African socio-economic policy implemented by the government of President Nelson Mandela in 1994. Madam Speaker, the government does not consider the needs of people with disability to qualify for an RDP house. You need to meet the National Housing Subsidy Scheme criteria. Regardless of all above-mentioned invention, hence achieving an inclusive society in which people with disability fully enjoy their housing rights will require a number of changes in practices and housing services delivery by government. Discrimination is unfortunately experienced by many women with disability. Accessibility is a critical component and housing for individuals with disability. The RDP houses are built for able people, not disabled people. Ngoba lezi ndlu lezi maziphuma siyaya siyozibhalisa but maziphuma ziphumela ama friends and families. The government official practice corruption. Bakhohlwa ukuthi balapho for ukusebenza, not ukupusha i-corruption. Anything nje evelayo kuba yesuthu bathi kimunyetla iba munyetla hubona, especially futhi ngalesikhathi lesi se COVID-19. There must be a person with disability in the housing department so that he or she can be able to help people with disability. Sikhathele ilento yabo ukuthi babe besebenza bebodwa lapho banama policies wabo wokuthi only a person umuntu okumele ukuthi apply for i-disability ngumuntu lokuthi like uhola i-grant. And leyo ngeke izisebenze because of akubo bonke abantu aba-disabled abahola i-grant. Disabled people are supposed to be given first priority for RDP houses, and the houses also supposed to be adapted to their needs. I thank you.
Honorable Ashela.
Oh, good afternoon, people. Madam Speaker, my name is Ursula. I'm presenting City of Johannesburg. I'm here in the Housing Department. I just want to bring it up that the officials and the councillors have to take care of the disability people. We as disability people, we are suffer because they're not taking care of us. We don't know nothing. If they have meetings about housings, we are pushed away. We don't know nothing. You have to snuff around the people to ask them what's happening. So I want to plead with the government, please sort your people out, that they can take us first. That is why we are here for help. They talk about RDP houses. I don't know since when we are here about houses, RDP houses, but there's nothing that goes on. If you hear, you always hear some people that move in the houses, it's people that there's nothing wrong with them. You go to a housing department, you ask them for your application, they tell you a lot of stories. Since 96, I did have apply for a house. I still stay in the old house. When it's rain, it's like I'm outside. But I have an application with housing. So, Madam Speaker, please, can you help us to talk and to plead with them to help the disability to take us out in that poor houses where we stay. We stay in Zozas, we stay in houses when it's rain. Then it seems like we're outside. So please, Madam Speaker, I'm tired of hear about RDP houses. Let the government stand up and put us in proper houses and start building the houses. I thank you.
Honorable Ace Kosana.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, and House at large. Good day. Nagitilo hobolela solutions more RDP houses. Samatomo says we have to get away the gatekeepers. Go Department of Housing. Or freely. But all who would say question because they know we are there. And another thing, the document for applier for RDP housing, it's only the Fuguti. My question is, if only disability is I qualify for Walinkuna. Because every time certificate is aban, this thing must come to an end and happen. It costing disability grant. The other cost because certificates what SASA and all these things. There are different places and more transport. And then the RDP houses, it's also who they were for they were straight for bargain. They were say who but finally disability. They were the REMS and all these things for maternal disability. Remember, RDP like RDP houses. I think it's 30% or 40% of persons with disabilities by RDP houses from Mo. But then if you go to any places or any places where by the RDP houses, habateng batuba, arnabo na maternal disability. Banuna clearly social development and Department of Housing. Hori, haba hira maternal disability. Go housing, local social development. People who are going to monitor the situation to all places where only the RDP houses. If RDP houses say, but motona have belonging mo, bansiwe. And if RDP houses say, foreign peoples, today I'm a tenant in my country. I'm paid a rent. Chalataga grant if a lagay. Go landlord. While I've applied for RDP house, it is very painful. They are no social development and Department of Housing. Today we are here. See an database. Go housing. Taxi. South Africans. Then we belong there. And before Kifeta happy, Katawa MEC. La Rafaela Legislature. Today we are here. MEC at yesterday nalite. Overlay maponya hore. Remudumele to atamai. Today we are sitting here complaining. We are not sure the Lotaro do fit. We are not sure whatever we are saying is going to be implemented. Recover what happened in November. Regular the same thing. And it's been years, regular 21. But from now on, I promise you, November, ahuna Disability Parliament if ever, abar Araba. I want to see myself after July in an RDP house. Honorable members, we have to fight for our own rights. If we keep quiet, we need to be united. We need to fight together until they deliver. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable G. Torres.
Sanwananin, ikamala mengkosnati. Ngiyabonga South Africa. Today singabantu abakhubazekile sinemizi yethu namhlanje. Even though abanye bangakasizeke ne ake ngithi kanje ku government wethu izindlu esinazo zinhle kakhulu kodwa ke asikwazi ukuzisebenzisa thina abanikazi bazo kuyomele ukuthi ngithathe umuntu able ngimbeke ngaphambili ukuze ngikwazi ukuthi ngibe umnikazi womuzi izindlu zethu asikwazi ukuphuza amanzi kuzona impompi phezulu le ugesi angikhulumi ngawo ngathi angihlelela ku wheelchair ngathi angihlelela kule wheelchair engihleli kuyona and then umuzi wethu imizi esinikezwa uhulumeni ayinayo i-security silele nje igangeni usibekile nje and as-afford ukuthi singathi nathi sizi-secure sifake amabonda ngithi-ke ku-legislature siyabonga kwi-employment as i-2% ingakaze sayibona why yena e-legislature angasinikezi i-monitoring and surveying kube yethu as sihleli kule yitulo as sikhubazekile ngiyabonga Madam Speaker.
Honorable D. Torres.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker and Deputy Speaker and the House at large. I'm Fusum Gomezulu from Davidton. Though I'm standing here to talk about the houses, RTP houses. I'm asking the government, please, because in this time, I've got the house in computer in Davidton, but they build these houses on the workplace. Do you understand? On the workplace, because when the rain is raining, oh, we are in trouble. And the point number two, I want to tell the government, to ask the government, how can they give us these houses? There's no fence, there's no security, there's no burglars proof, because we are disabled, we are unable to see, we are people with disability. You are not safe, you are living in the house that have no fence. There's no security. And the second place, I want to tell the people of this country, the people with disability, if you have found the house of RTP, please pay the services. Pay the services in order to complain about government. Otherwise, you see government because you pay the services. Sing a bridge. Our problem is that. Let us be fair in order to government that be fair to us. And the point number three, I want to tell the House that I'm so disappointed when I see the people with disability, they are living in the squatter camp. Queen. It's not safe there for the people with disability because there's no electricity sometimes, there's no water. You go water, I'm blind. I'm in the risk. I'm risking. Please, government. Government of us. And please, we are tired of talking. It's more than 10 years now. We are always talking, but there's no action. And I'm telling this government of us, and we love this government. We love them. I'm warning them. If they don't ask to take action, they must do the right things because we can revolt anytime. Thank you.
I now call for open time and will only allow 4 participants to speak to the debate. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. You acknowledge, honorable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise under Rule 77.7 I'm starting by saying, Mojamorahu, bare Mojamorahu ke khosi. So I think I had some question to different departments that are here. Madam Speaker, corruption. Corruption is the head here. All departments are corrupt. Everything that we cry for today, it's all about corruption. We are tired of getting to interviews for others. You apply for a job, you are being called for interview, nothing. Because you have gone there for somebody. And to SASA officials, pass the message. We are tired of corrupt officials. You had to wear dirty clothes. You had to move otherwise to get approved for SASA. Why? Why? Is it that doctors' remarks enough for them? So many things have. One speaker said, not all disabilities are visible. I agree with her. Again, coming to RDP houses, we had now technology. Isn't there any partnership to all departments? Why everything you had to go to Department of Housing, you had to go to SAS? Is there nothing that can partner so that they can get people that are disabled to get houses? Database. And then happen monitoring and evaluation. Re gola re itse gore go na le ba selo ba re ke di inspector. Di kae gona no? Di kae di those inspectors in all the departments. Di kae tsona? O kry le gore motho o fiwa tender. Yes, boy khaula go tloga go dimo kwa bare gore o ikiriye santse o fe motho bokae. Wa sa eng go ira selo that person. That's why at the end of the day dilo ha dia fela. RDP houses di tlogediwa di sa fela because motho wa winning tender chelete ha isa le teng go fetsa the job. And then o filwe chelete a go aba le monitoring. Aba a go aba le inspection go tla o lebella gore motho o ira mmereko re bjang. And re lapisa hape ke go rekiswa ha mebereko ke setse ke boletse ka yona di tendera di a rekisiwa go tlwa go di motšhelete ya fokotsiwa ge e fitla mo motong a o sa de selo. Batho disability a se calling a ra bitswa mo go tlo performa ritual. Disability ke ya motho mang le mang. O robala o le able, o tsoga o le disabled. So a se kese mara tlhokomelang ba gaetso gore le lena le mo laeneng re utlwelleng he re lla. Ke a leboga.
Good day. My name is Silla Gianne. I just want to speak about the RDP houses. The RDP houses, I don't think they were ever meant for people with disability. If you can go into an area where RDP houses are built, if there's 1,000 houses built in that area, all of them are the same. There is not even one different house that is designated for a person with disability? And secondly, people with disability, how can you give them RDP houses? Because these houses falls apart. They are not properly built. So these houses are not giving us a dignity that we deserve as people or as Africans. Now, I think in terms of us talking about RDP houses, let us talk about decent housing instead. Is there other houses that we can get rather than RDP? Because if you apply for a house at the Department of Housing, they want to know if you have children. And still they give you a 1-bedroom house. Now, if you have 4 children and earning a disability grant, how and when are you going to extend that house so that your kids have a home? You still get that same house that everybody gets, whereas you've got 4 children or 5 children. So why do they want you to have children if they still give you that 1-bedroom house? Why can't they change this system and build better house for people? I mean, what happened to the system where you rent to own? And they can build you a decent house that you can rent and own 20, 30 years later. Thank you.
Hello, it's Honorable Speaker. Everybody has speak about your RDP house. Now, first of all, I have to say, maybe I'm more fortunate than a lot of people because I have favor from the Lord, not from people, from the Lord above and by mankind. I like what the gentleman say, a proper house. I think Zain and his committee, the legislation and its committee needs to go to Easters and come and see what we have done to improve a house for people with disability. I'm talking about my house. My house was specifically set with me to design my house so that it can cater for my wheelchair. And it is true what these people say, that these houses are not really wheelchair or disability friendly, especially, let me explain you from a visual impact person. A visual impact person used certain steps and it used the sound of their voice. If the house is too big, they can't hear the sound properly to see where it needs to stop. So it means when you build a house for a person in a wheelchair, some of these people have to leave their wheelchairs outside just to go into the house. I mean, it's really uncomfortable to see these RDP houses. But when you go into my house and one lady's house that we have built by a private person, I mean, that house is really suitable for a person in a wheelchair and for a blind person. Because we go to the doctor and fill in those forms, but when you go for your house, it doesn't comply to the recommended, which the doctor said, what type of disability. And I think your Honorable Chairperson, you need to speak with a committee of the legislation, and you need somebody on the ground to go into the 7 regions. There's 9 provinces, but I can only speak of the 7 regions of Tshwane because we normally do our visit, especially myself with my friends. I like to do visit and go into these houses, and I really must say, it is sad to own RDP houses. And really, you need a disabled person. In Tshwane, we have a disability desk. And Honorable Chairman, what I'm about to say, you need to take it in consideration. On your board, wherever there's a disability desk, it needs to comply with the same rules that government needs to deal with. And I'm talking about issues affecting people with disability. And remember what I'm about to say is, behind every successful disabled person is a person. Some of us need care workers. Some of us need young kids to assist us on our daily basis. So all these things needs to be looked in, Honorable Chairperson. And I'm asking this with sincere, deeply, from my heart to say, assist these people that's sitting here. And I'm willing to make myself available only on one condition, if there's a budget included, because I'm not doing things out of my pocket. If people can do it like, I like what social development is doing, whenever they come, they will always call us and say, listen, this is the type of program that we're going to have in your region. Can you please come in and assist us in the best way you know how? But the only problem is they always have this thing of a budget. It is actually sad today to see that they didn't hire a motivational speaker, while we are motivated day by day by our own struggling. So please, Honorable Chairperson, look into this. And I make myself available for all your departments that are here today, because there is a solution amongst ourselves. Don't go and look for somebody else internationally. We are here to assist you in the best way we know how, from health up to housing, and anything that you want from affecting people with disability, even in our schools. We are here to assist you as long if there's a budget, because when you go to the bread bin, there's no this thing of volunteer. I'm not a volunteer person. You only speak money with me. Sort out my money and sort out my transport. Thank you very much.
Honorable Speaker, this is Temanzini. I will speak on housing. So there is a greater challenge that people who are differently abled are experiencing, especially on housing, as honorable speakers have alluded. So I would like to ask the Department of Housing the question, what are the clarifications of that 2% inclusion or the 10%? Because you find in the cases that we experienced not long ago, the MEC for Housing sent a letter on our forum that we need to bring names of people who are differently abled who have applied for housing. When we compiled that list of beneficiaries, when we wanted to send it, they said, no, we don't want so many names. We want only 10 names. And the question was that if the municipality has many locations, including rural areas, how then is 10% equal to only 10 names? So the question raised now was, how do they classify their inclusivity on that 10% as opposed to the 10 numbers that they're looking for? So now I think what I said earlier on, that if the councillors had disability desks, then these challenges will be kept, because the challenges we are facing in housing, if we have maybe a person who is differently abled, then they would know what challenges we face in these RDPs, because as my colleague said now, some had to leave the wheelchairs outside to go to the house. So we don't have the accessibility of the wheelchairs in the RDP houses. Even the toilets are not built for a wheelchair-bound person. So we need the change on that housing. Thank you, Mr.
Honorable Esntuli, please reply to the debate and move for the adoption of the Commission's report.
Honorable Speaker, sinenkinga yama buildings ase akhiwa kulamalanga. O awa di building jwale batho ba disabled tlamele ba kene ka hara matlo a ileng hore a upstairs. Motho a blind o tlo kena jwang ho ntlo e upstairs. even le motho wa wheelchair o tlo kena jwang ho ntlo e leng hore e upstairs. Honorable Speaker, the government must work together with the South African social agencies, sithi phecelezi isasa, so they get the database of PWDs and organizations zabantu elukuthi like ba nokukhubazeka. Honorable Speaker, ngicabanga ukuthi i-legislation it must change to add abo mama elukuthi like banabantwana elukuthi ba nokukhubazeka. So kugcwele ama-squatter camp everywhere, kodwa izindlu zona asizitholi. Silindeni na sizolinda istina elukuthi like sibuya from overseas ukuthi sizowakhelwa izindlu na. Sikhathele, Honorable Speaker. Sibongile Ntuli, the chairperson of Commission of Debate on People with Disability Accessibility to RDP Houses, hereby move the Commission report in terms of Rule 164, read with Rule 117, taking into account all contributions made. Thank you.
I now call for a seconder.
Paramount Chief Richard seconds the motion. Thank you.
I now put the question. All those in favor say yes. Yes. All those not in favor say no. The yes have it. The report is adopted. Kindly hand the resolution of the Commission on debate on PWD's accessibility to RDP houses. I now declare the debate on PWD's accessibility to RDP houses closed. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the honorable members for their contribution in the various debates. I would further like to take this opportunity to welcome the chairperson of committees of the Gauteng Legislature, Honorable Engelberg, to deliver the closing remarks.
Honorable Speaker Mekwe, Deputy Speaker Maklaza Manamala, Deputy Chairperson of Committees, Honorable Kanyane, the Chairperson of Committees of the City of Ekurhuleni, Councillor Bridget Tusi, any chairpersons present, Ms. Gwala from the IEC, and honorable members of this House. Ladies and gentlemen, I am greatly privileged and humbly honored to be able to accept these resolutions taken by this House. At this historic occasion of Peoples with Disabilities Sector Parliament, under the theme, Not All Disabilities Are Visible. To the leaders of persons with disabilities and other distinguished guests, your presence today at this Sector Parliament is a reflection of the importance of issues facing prisoners with disabilities in Gauteng. I would like to take this opportunity to express our thanks and gratitude to all the stakeholders. We are inspired by your gracious presence and your contributions and deliberations that took place today. It is with this inspiration that I, on behalf of the Gauteng Legislature and the organizers of this event, extend to you a hearty vote of thanks for gracing this occasion and for sharing with us your vision, your wisdom, and your challenges. As acting chairperson of Social Development Portfolio Committee, I recognize that these engagements assist in deepening relationships with people with disabilities and are aimed at improving the quality of your lives through our legislative processes. The social contract of our province should rest on the values of tolerance and respect of diversity, as well as to raise awareness and mobilize support for the dignity and well-being of persons with disabilities to make Gauteng a better place to live in. Finally, let me take this opportunity to thank the leadership of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, the presiding officers, and in particular the Speaker, for allowing this event to take place, as we are all inspired by your leadership and taking the legislature forward through this, your public participation. Ladies and gentlemen, a very special thanks goes to you all for gracing this occasion. I thank you. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Engelbrecht, for your closing remarks. Participants are kindly requested to proceed to the front of the building for a photo session immediately after the sitting. You are also invited to join the GPL for lunch at the prepared place. That concludes the business for the day. The House is now adjourned.
Hello? Sorry, can we announcement? Can I do the announcement? Sibonga kakhulu. Babongile lana.